So how did you come up with the idea that you were gonna go do a TikTok in your birthday suit? How was that your idea or was that somebody else's?
Well, as a guy who, I'm not the most slender human ever put together. And I'm marketing barbecue sauce, so I'm not going to go on there and say, "Hey, we'll make you look great" when you're not wearing anything. Just looking for a creative way to get the bigger fellows to grab a shirt.
Okay, I can respect that. It was good. I laughed. I that one and then the one you had of the bigger sizes. That one was pretty good as well. Now are these ideas are you coming up all by yourself or are you following TikTok trends or anything like that?
I've played around with the strategy a little bit on TikTok, like like doing they have the meme templates or a trending sound or something.
Yep.
I haven't had any good success, so I'm just gonna go the way. I basically want to build our brand like You Betcha did, and just go and do these skits and make people laugh, And if they happen to buy our product at the end of the day, that's a byproduct of it. But just wanted to build the brand and get people to know like us and our personality, and I think that's a better way to do it rather than like you know hard planned out pretty product pictures and here's us using this. Yeah, why not make people laugh?
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. So how did you come up with the idea for Big Deck Barbecue? Now, you grew up in West Fargo and, um you said you aren't the most slender human. So
Hmm.
did you guys grow up at your childhood house? Were you guys doing a lot of barbecues, grilling out, smoking meat? Or is that something that just came across in recent years?
No, yeah, I mean, I'd say probably 10 or 12 years ago, we are still in my first childhood home, and my dad bought a stick burner for like $50 off of Craigslist. Just wanted to see if he could start barbecuing. Then he was too stubborn to go and buy his own sauce or buy the sauces from the store. So he's like, I'll make my own. And that basically really, from that point on, has all been a snowball. And then it culminated in 2020 with NDSU football and going to school, obviously, on pause. We had time on our hands. He was working remote. And I said, shoot, why not? Like we got time. I always wanted to run a business. We both like barbecue. Let's roll. And yeah, after that, it's kind of just been had a mind of its own. It's been its own beast, and I'm just here to ride the wave while we can.
Yeah. So you talked about the first batch of barbecue sauce you guys made. Did he have a plan of how it, or was it similar to like the old school ways of you just throw shit in a pot and hope it tastes okay, or what was the process behind making it the first batch?
Yeah, I think that's the beauty of barbecue. One is that you're taking something that isn't, the sum of the parts is always greater than the parts themselves. I think, you start with, even look at brisket. If I just handed you a brisket and said, cook this any other way than smoking it for 14 hours, it would be the most disgusting piece of food I've ever handed you. But if you do that, or if you take a pork shoulder and do the same thing, it all comes together. It's ketchup, brown sugar, apple cider vinegar, like things that you wouldn't use by themselves for the most part. It just comes together in the right balance. We're not really trying to reinvent the wheel. You see a lot of stuff out there where it's like apple pie, barbecue sauce, or, you know, I don't even know, like all this weird stuff. Let's just make something that tastes good. Now, I say that as a guy who sells peanut butter barbecue sauce, so I can't really talk too much, but it was all like tinkering. And like I said, it wasn't like we were in the garage in May and we're like, God, come up with a barbecue sauce recipe right now. Like this is stuff that he'd been crafting and honing in and giving to people, friends and family for all the years that led up to that point.
Okay, so and now to see what it is, you guys have like your own. You guys have your kind of your own production. Is it warehouse shop type of
Yeah,
uh, however you would describe it now. So how does that process go of making it? Because now it's not just a put it in a pan. I've seen the videos where you guys have like a full setup with your blending different ingredients. So do you have like a set day of like we're making the OG Monday, we're making the peanut butter one Tuesday, we're making the habanero sauce on Wednesday, or how does that process come about?
Yeah, right now it's kind of when we can get production days in, as far as when we have suppliers pay us and when we have stuff on hand. But after that, it's all scheduled. So like next week, we're gonna do 3 of the barbecues and 2 of the mustards, and then the next week we're gonna handle the seasonings and the hot sauces. So just having our own HQ, I call it the shop. I don't know. When people ask me, I say like production facility, I guess, but it's a pretty humble 1,700 square feet in South Fargo, nothing too crazy, but it's a place that's ours, and that's what I'm super proud of. It started in my dad's garage, and we have our own storefront place to make our own sauce. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, that is. Do you have a personal do you have a favorite of all of them?
Ooh, um, well, the dill pickle mustard is the only one that's my recipe, so I'm pretty thankful for
Oh,
that.
okay.
The others,
How did you come up with that one?
this like is not hyperbole. I literally woke up out of a dream, like in a sweat. I'm like, we need to do something with pickles. And then I thought, like pickle hot sauce, okay, that might work. Pickle barbecue, no. Dude, dill pickle mustard, that goes on everything. And then next day, came up with a recipe. Had some friends and family try it. They all loved it. And then we started put that one on, and it's been one of our best sellers since.
Yeah, I had some last night on my brats I made,
Appreciate
and
that.
um, so I I think most people have had some type of experience making a barbecue sauce of some sort, but I don't know of too many people that make mustard. How does that process go?
Well, we use like prepared like deli mustard already. So we're not like doing the grinding and adding vinegar. I think that's something down the road that we could do if we really wanted to hone in and control the flavors of that. But we really treat it like a barbecue sauce. As far as you're just swapping out ketchup and mustard for the base, and then you add all your seasonings, your sweeteners, your liquids, all that stuff. Our Dakota mustard is a Carolina style barbecue. So on the coast out there, they don't use ketchup in their barbecue sauces. So we just, it's literally like if we were copying a barbecue sauce flavor into a mustard. Same kind of process, but um, mustard's kind of polarizing up here, actually. This is like kind of in the weeds, but we have a lot of people that'll come up to us and be like, not a mustard person. And I'm like, well, this isn't your regular mustard, and they don't care. I'm not eating it. I can't convince you, I guess. So.
Well, and I used to be that way. I used to not be a mustard guy, and then it was when I was working for Parks and Rec in Dickinson and was working a tournament, and Subway was always kind enough to donate us subs for our like staff
Mm-hmm.
to have in between games, whether it be referees, scorekeepers, those type of peoples. And I was like, you know what? I'm feeling adventurous. I'm gonna go try some mustard on just a regular deli sandwich. And ever since then, I've been a fan. Like I always have it on a hot dog. Even like burgers, it's not a huge thing to me, but I don't turn it down. But you're
Yeah,
right, because like, and most of my family, we didn't grow up eating mustard. I had an uncle that during COVID never liked mustard before. After he got better from COVID, he loves mustard.
weird.
Yeah,
the 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 vaccine was sponsored by Big Deck Barbecue to make you love mustard. That
yeah.
it was all part of our
That could get you boycotted, Zach.
then I guess that's what does it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mustard's really interesting too because like there's obviously so many different variations you can go into, like the whole grain stuff or Grey Poupon even, or like, I love a spicy mustard on a hot dog, but I just grew up around it. I loved it, and then like our Dakota mustard hardly even tastes like a yellow mustard that you'd expect it to. And I describe the dill pickle mustard as the mustard just being a vehicle for the dill pickle flavor. So it's something I am an adventurous eater. I'll go out and try anything once at least, but I try to convince as many people as possible to at least try it.
Yeah. So do you are I'm guessing you're not afraid of spice?
That it's on a spectrum and depends on a lot of things. If it tastes good, you can deal with spice. But if it's just where it's like this is just gonna melt my face off, I can't really play in that world too much. That's more my dad. When we had 1,000 followers on Facebook, we ate a ghost pepper on video, and I think after that, it just kind of reset my whole.
Yeah, I had to do for my fantasy football channel. I had to do two because I had one because I took last in the regular season, and then in the losers bracket we won one week, split. I lost one week, won the other week, so we ended up having to split like one of those Pocky really hot chips.
Oh yeah,
And that was hot, like because before your research, did you have when you guys did your Carolina Reaper pepper? Did you guys have milk with you, or did you just suck it up and go through with it?
that's actually a funny story. We had a bunch of like remedies. Like we heard that peanut butter helped. We heard that ice cream or like whipped cream helped. Anything like fatty and dairy and sweet was supposed to help. And like me and my fiance are not big milk drinkers, so like we keep like a half gallon around just to have it for cooking or something. And my dad pulled it out of the fridge and took a drink, and it was spoiled. So he's
Oh,
like on drinking spoiled milk after eating this ghost pepper. That was a tough scene, and honestly, as far as I can tell, in my experiences with spice, nothing helps. There's just no remedy for it.
yeah, because when me and my buddy did it, I went and I bought milk before. I bought like two of just those kind of like little small ones, figuring, oh, that'll be plenty.
Yeah,
And it was, and that chip, it wasn't like it was like the second it hit your tongue that it got hot and burned. It was slow. It was like you get it down and it's like, oh, this ain't bad, and then like just keeps slowly coming up, coming up, coming up, and it's like you're dying of like this is hot. I handled it a little bit better than my buddy did. I have the video of it. He was dying, and similar to you, he drank that the entire little bottle of milk, and I look at him like, we're gonna need more milk, dude. And so he's rummaging through my buddy's fridge trying to find. He finds this thing of like half chunk of cream cheese. He's like, oh, there it is. Goes and opens it, looks it up. It was moldy.
that like makes me want to throw up just thinking about it. Cream cheese might be the answer though. Like cold cream cheese, that maybe that would help. But as far as I can tell, there's like I watch Hot Ones even like with Sean Evans, and it's like everything that everybody has tried doesn't work. But what you're describing with the slow burn, man, those are way worse than just like instantaneous hot.
Yes.
I mean, you're dealing with it for 10 minutes till it's gone. I think I trimmed it down
If
to
you're
like
lucky.
yeah, right. I think I trimmed it down to like a 10-minute video, but it was like 45 minutes of footage of like me and my dad just going through it. And then obviously you deal with the repercussions later, but I won't go
Yeah.
into detail.
Yeah, that was because the next day I had people over. We were watching it was the day before the conference championship games, and I had people over, and I was making and him and his wife came over, and I'm like, how'd you feel this morning? Rough. and and it was just endless, just nonstop.
Yeah.
And it's something that I never want to do again. But I will say, if I had to choose between the pancakes and that hot chip, I would take the hot chip over the pancakes.
Yeah,
Because that was like for a few hours. The pancakes is a 7-hour thing.
right. Did you do IHOP or something?
I did it at Paragon in Dickinson. It's the bowling alley, which also has tremendous food. If you ever stop in Dickinson, never had a bad meal there. I would recommend it. It is a bowling alley, but it's incredible the food they have.
Good to know. That's a good tip.
And that's the go-to place after the bars close too. And it's like a light Waffle House, because we were in went on a family trip to Florida this year, and
Mm-hmm.
we were going to a Waffle House, and my mom was asking what's this Waffle House like? It's like, well, if you go after midnight, it's like the Paragon on crack.
Yeah. You know, I am a sucker for Waffle House, the food and the ambiance. Like those are my kind of people. That's the crew I like to be around. But that was the question I was going to ask because I saw Chris Long. He does the Green Light podcast, and he lost their fantasy uh, season last year, and he had to do the 24 hours, 24 waffles challenge. And
Ooh.
I don't know if I could do it. They did a podcast from there. Like they just brought the setup and he recorded with people. I think how many pancakes did you eat?
I ate 17 of them in 7 hours.
That's a lot of pancakes. I don't know. Are they like big? Like what are we talking about here?
They were probably about the size of my face.
Okay.
And
so
the first 6 were okay. Like they tasted like normal pancakes, and then after that, like I got full and I had to stop using syrup, and then I had switched to sugar free, which anybody who ever tells you that sugar free you can't taste the difference in sugar free, they're full of shit.
Yeah. Yeah.
and you and you're and then like the taste changed. I had it. I was tweeting it out, like live tweeting it during it. And then I have a video that I have on our podcast YouTube page, but like it just sat there, and then you were full, and like there were a couple of times I had to like walk around to move up just to clear some space. Like there were a couple of times I had to take an hour off from eating, and
yeah, it just turns into like you're just eating soggy flour. It's just I've been there with pancakes before. I think I can handle waffles better than I can handle pancakes.
I think I could too.
It's a better texture.
The waffles at Waffle House are huge, but the other part is if you're at a Waffle House though, you at least get some like good views and some chaos that's going to ensue there. I started at like 8:00 in the morning, and I just finished at would have been like 4:30ish, or like maybe 8:30. I can't remember the exact time, but
did you have to like consult a manager and be like, "Hey, I might spend 24 hours in your restaurant"?
Yeah, so like when the waitress came to me and I kind of explained, and she kind of laughed, and they felt sorry for me, and it was kind of nice because as like the pancakes totaled up, they kind of kept making them smaller and smaller. And it could have been, and luckily they did, because if they were like the full size, that would have been rough. And the pancakes, I'm not even sure what was worse. The pancakes are just sitting there and not being able to really do anything. You couldn't leave. You couldn't do anything.
Yeah, you should bring like a mini TV and the PS5 and just like set it up if you lose next year.
That's I'm hoping my luck doesn't turn around. And the bad part was too is, Zach, I took like I had the third highest point total in the league. We're kind of a pussy league. We only have 6 people in the league.
So it's just stacked up.
Yeah, and like I just had terrible matchups, and that was how I ended up losing. Like the guy that got third in the league ended up he had the lowest point totals, but all about matchups, and they end up winning.
Yeah, and then it's like everybody else goes off, and then you have like Tua, and he throws like 4 picks and has -6 points, and it just doesn't matter. I've seen 2 other challenges that interest me. The one is I have to do a beer mile because we hit 1,000 followers on Twitter, and I said if we hit 1,000 followers, I would do a beer mile and put a video out. So I've yet to do that. My only problem is I don't know where to find a track that isn't at a school for me to run a mile. There's no parks that have tracks. Like I might just have to go and do a country mile out on a dirt road.
There you go. So that was actually going to be my next question is when you get your next follower mark, what your next goal was going to be, the beer mile.
Yeah.
So well, I mean, you could go to the couldn't you go to the NDSU track?
It's technically a dry campus, but are they going to yell at me for running around? I don't know. That remains to be seen. I've pushed my luck with having alcoholic beverages on campus enough. I don't want to bite the hand. You know. The other one I saw that was interesting is miles ran, donuts eaten, and beers drank. You have to hit 50 in a day, and that looks
Miles ran, beers drank, and donuts eaten.
yep. You have to do 50 combined between those three.
Oh, that that would be a tough one. Although I did just read David Goggins' book. I don't know if you know who he is,
Yep.
but where he'd run like 30 miles a day, and then, I mean, that would. I don't think I couldn't run 30 miles in a day. Definitely could not do that. But people like look at that and think it's easy, but it adds up quick.
Yeah, like even doing the breakdown, like let's say, because here's where you run the risk, right? You eat 20 donuts and you drink 20 beers. That is in your stomach for you to run 10 miles.
That's a lot of gluten. A lot of carbs.
Yeah. So that one interesting. Maybe if we hit like 5,000, I'll do the 50 in a day challenge.
Okay. Have you seen the Pardon My Take, the fantasy football challenge at the bowling alley, where it was for every hot dog you ate, it knocked off like 10 pins off your score?
Yeah, I mean, like my real strategy would just be to house as many hot dogs as possible. I genuinely think I could do 20 hot dogs in an hour. 20 or
we were discussing this at softball a couple of weeks ago, and I was thinking about this. Like, if I'm drinking, I could easily knock down at least a 8-pack of Cloverdales easy.
Oh yeah, and that's what is the 9 innings, 9 beers, 9 dogs? Like that seems easy to me.
Yeah, I think it would. I don't know. I don't know if I want to. I'm not giving anybody ideas that I want to try this or do this again, because I still haven't had a pancake. Yeah, because I still haven't had a pancake since the time I did the pancake challenge, and even what's that?
Pancake PTSD.
Yep, and even anything with syrup. Like I had about a month or so ago, I was down in Mexico on vacation, and at the resorts they had French toast, and I tried it, and the syrup just was like, I can't do this.
You know, this might be a hot take, but of the three like breakfast pastries, I guess you would say, French toast is a solid third place to me.
Oh, interesting.
I'm a waffle guy than a French toast guy.
Okay, I would probably say I'm French toast, waffle, pancake, and that was probably before pancake challenge.
Sure.
But now there's like, maybe I might throw in some crepes or something even in between them. But yeah, I'll break his arm. But so back to the barbecue sauce here is now that it's summer, you're out barbecuing. Do you guys do you try to do something at least like once or twice a week, or is it just kind of whenever you guys have time?
Yeah, a lot of it is dependent on the situation. Like if it's just me and my fiance eating, like one pork butt will last us 3 weeks. Like we just don't eat a lot of it. So if I'm hosting people, especially in the summer, I'll do more. But like I have a couple of ribeyes in the fridge tonight. I'll probably get those done next week. Once or twice. We wait too long during the winter to not take advantage and cook when it's finally nice out. So I do as much of it as possible. The other part is, as everybody knows with barbecuing, it's a time commitment. So like I couldn't really fire it up tonight and just be like, hey, I want pulled pork tonight. So Saturdays and Sundays, usually most weekends, I have a chunk of time carved out to do some barbecuing.
Yeah. What type of smoker do you have? Are you a strictly one way the I'm only a Traeger, I'm only a pit boss, or is it do you give people a hard time if they have the other one?
This is this is a very button topic to me because I don't know if there's a more pretentious group of people as far as a community than the barbecue community. You know, uh,
Soccer people.
I'm not not familiar. Take your word for that. But you know, there's such a low barrier of entry when it comes to barbecue, and people who are interested and want to get into it. That when there are people who try to make it seem more difficult, or that you're doing it a wrong way, or you're not as manly for doing it one way, is like the weirdest thing to me because it's literally up to you how you do it. My preferences, and like, is a pellet smoker easier to make a brisket on than like a stick burner or a charcoal grill? Yes, but like, also leave this random guy on the internet alone for how he cooked his meat. But right now I have like a. Have you seen those combo grills where it's like propane and charcoal on
Yeah.
one side
Yep.
each? That's what I have right now. It's not ideal. It's harder to do like multiple things at one time with the charcoal. So I think here in the next couple of months I'm gonna get it's called the Brazos by Old Country Pits. Just quarter-inch steel, like a big badass stick burner. And I'm gonna really hone it in and try to become a real man in the barbecue community.
Okay. Cause yeah, I have I've got a pit boss that I've finally gotten to use a little bit more. I used it a whole one time last year. It was the weekend I got it. I smoked a rack of ribs, and then this year did it for I smoked it for the Super Bowl, and then the last couple of weekends, one weekend I smoked chicken thighs, which were really good, and then last weekend I tried something different. I've never done it, but we went fishing last weekend up at Sakakawea, and I just decided I'm gonna try and smoke walleye, and
Oh, okay.
it turned out phenomenal. So for Father's Day, that's what I'm doing is I'm gonna smoke walleye for my parents.
Very nice. I
Yeah,
haven't done any whitefish, honestly, any smoking, but yeah, dude, I started with a pellet grill. That was kind of like my intro. My dad was like, just learn the basics of like just the techniques of how to barbecue stuff on this. And I think that's the easiest way to do it, where like you just set a knob, and then it's all about preparation and then how you deal with it throughout the cook. And just the stuff you can do on it. Like I did a smoked cheesecake one time. Like you can put it's like an oven that makes food taste better. I don't know. I've done
how did that turn out?
it was awesome. It was you have to be kind of picky with the wood choice that you use. Obviously, you don't want to use like a hickory or mesquite, something that's really heavy and like really penetrates all that. But a fruit wood, I think I did apple with it, and it turned out good. But I've done smoked Chex Mix. I've done pistachios. I've seen people like coat Cheez-Its in seasoning and smoke those. Like the possibilities are endless.
Yeah. So did you when you're smoking a pork butt, what's your go-to method for it? I've never smoked one. I've done it in a crock pot, but I've always wanted to do a pork butt. So what's the big deck barbecue way of smoking a pork butt?
So this is exactly what I'm talking about. This would get me made fun of online, but as in me and my dad, I learned this from my dad. We do the smoking in a tin pan. Now, the downside of that is you don't get all of the bark all the way around like some people are looking for. When I'm eating pulled pork, I don't really need a crunchy piece of outside meat, right? But what it does help you with is it renders all that fat and keeps it in the pan. And then any liquid that is also in the pan just cooks into the meat. So you wrap it and then it steams it. And like so back up a little bit. I'll do the tin pan and then I'll do a bottle of our Red River mop sauce, which is the apple cider vinegar base, basically made for pulled pork. It kind of breaks down all the tough fibers as it goes through the cook. And then you hit the stall point 175, whatever it gets to, you wrap it. Cook to 204, pull it, let it rest, and then it's gonna just fall apart as you touch it. But what's great about that is when you start to shred it, that meat starts to obviously go throughout the pan and soaks up all the barbecue sauce, soaks up all the fat that came out of the pork. You don't lose any of that. So, um, yeah, that's the way we've done it. And I've served, 150 people at a time with that, and they've said it's the best pork they've ever had. So that's the way I'm going to keep doing it.
Yeah, well, the people that are the hardos like that, it might not be their way, but you're the guy cooking it isn't the star of the show. The meat is, and if people like the meat or people like your meat, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, that's my competitive side that comes out too. Is like when people start to give me shit about it. I'm like, let's go side to side. Let's go. I guarantee mine tastes better than yours. If you want to, let yours sit on the grate and burn to a crisp and taste like shit, then we can have that competition.
Yeah. Yeah. So how long are you smoking it for? You said 14 hours?
That's I actually just did my first brisket last week, and that's what it ended up
Oh.
being. The pulled pork I only cook by temperature, because
Oh, okay.
many other variables like as far as size. I think it usually ends up be like an 8 to 10 hour cook at 225 is where I like to let it sit. But you know, eh, that's what I mean. Or it's easy. You just let it sit. You let it hit to whatever the stall point is, 170, 175, 180. Once it doesn't go above that temperature, wrap it in tinfoil, put it back on the grill, and cook it till it's 204. And then you let it sit. Like there's very basic principles that I think get overcomplicated and scare people away. But I would recommend if you're gonna do it, either pulled pork or basically anything where you have to check a temperature. If you're doing chicken or I did a turkey for Thanksgiving last year on a smoker. Get uh, the internal probes that you can put in and connect to your phone. You can sit inside or sit on the porch and drink as many beers as you want, and it will be absolutely foolproof because you know exactly what the temperature is inside.
Yeah. Um, because that's well, the other part too with barbecuing is it's I think there's so many times, and my amateur self included, is where you get like so anxious, like you're cooking it for so long, you're gonna think over you're gonna burn it, you're gonna screw it up somehow, because that it's a long drawn out process. What are some things that you mentioned the meat probe. What are kind of some other things that you can do to not freak out about, making sure it's not burning or
Well, here I'll give you some like coach speak here. You just have to trust the process. If you're cooking it at anywhere from 225 to 275 and you can read the temperature, it is, I'm telling you, it's almost foolproof to mess up. There is some like more advanced stuff. If you get into ribs, you can play around with spritzing with apple cider vinegar, or I've seen people do root beer in a squirt bottle and spray their ribs with that. Just add a little different texture and flavor. With brisket, there are edges because you are cooking it for so long. You turn into a 14 to 18 hour cook. That like you can wrap like what turns into the burn ends with tin foil just to protect it from the flame while everything else cooks. But yeah, I would get an instant read thermometer, especially if you're doing steaks where you can just put it in and you'll have the temp right away. But the internal probes were an absolute game changer for me, and I've been making really good barbecue since because I.
yeah. So with your what's your go-to method for the ribs? Because I've been watching some videos on it. I made some ribs last week, and my issue is when I did the 3 hours, the bottom part of them got too burnt, and they were too, like, they didn't fall apart, and that was, I think, part of my problem was is I think I put it directly on. I probably should have put it off, but what I did with it too is like about every half hour I would spray it with apple juice and squirt butter.
Nice. Yeah, I think that's a good start. Did you take the membrane off on the bottom?
Yeah, yep, I did.
So it wasn't
I
that.
think it was because of I think it was because I had it directly underneath or on top of the smoker, or of like where the flame is.
Yeah,
And that's probably where I probably should have put it either behind or in front.
yeah. I think setting as much as possible away from a hot spot would be good, but you also have to make sure. Um, Again, you can like stick your probe in just to the chamber of the grill to see what the ambient temperature is, to make sure it's in the right spot. It's still cooking at 225, but it's not directly over a flame where it gets burnt. Um, my dad always preached the 3-2-1 method, which is 3 hours unwrapped, 2 hours wrapped, 1 hour unwrapped to let the sauce set when you coat them. That gets trashed a lot online because
I
when you talk about ribs, there's two types of people who want, like, Chili's really made the fall off the bone rib like super famous and like commercialized and what everybody expected from a rib. But if you ask real barbecue guys, fall off the bone ribs are overdone. And I've had them both ways. I like them both ways. But this is the annoying answer. But it's all temperature based again when you cook it until it's done. But I think around that 2.5 hour range, unwrapped right away. Really let this, because once this goes for all cuts of meat, once it hits a certain temperature, it's not going to take on any more smoke. So then it's just all about getting the meat done to the right temperature. So if you cook ribs for 4 hours, it's going to taste the same as far as smokiness as it would at 2 hours or whenever it hit that certain temperature. So, and then it's all about just protection to make sure you're not burning it. You let that smoke flavor get in, let your sauce set, and then it's basically just watching. If kind of a cheat is once the meat pulls about an inch, you can see about an inch of bone outside of the meat. That's how you know they're pretty close to done. That's my
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Because I was watching videos, and like a lot of it is the 3-2-1 method is ruining your ribs, and
Yeah.
I didn't even really look what some other methods were, just because of different time. What are some of the other ways that you've made them?
Basically just tinkering with that formula as far as 3-2-1. I think it does get a little overdone in my opinion. So I don't know. It's like I'm so bad at like recipes and writing stuff down, but if you go 2.5 hours and you have a bark set and it's looking good, like once your bark is set and you think if it cooked any longer without being wrapped, it would burn, that's when I decide to wrap. But I use tinfoil. Some people do butcher paper. I think tinfoil is just easier to work with. Um, I go a full stick of butter down, and then I do demerara sugar, and then I do what is it? I'll do like a raspberry chipotle hot sauce or something like that. Whatever I want to just add some extra flavor in there, and then I go. So the bottom of the ribs are facing up. The top of the ribs are on that butter and sugar mixture. Wrap it tight, throw it back on, and then all that stuff just cooks down through the ribs as it finishes cooking and gets its temperature. And then you just unwrap,
Okay, yeah.
put your sauce on, and then once your sauce is like to your desired consistency, pull them off, and they're ready.
Yeah, are you add sauce after they're done cooking too, or do you just eat it the way you don't need to add anything to it?
So I kind of go back and forth on that. I honestly like a dry rib, like if it's just seasoning. But I know that's kind of contradictory to me being the owner of a barbecue sauce company. But
Well, you
like
sell seasoning, so it's not fully contradictory.
that's true. I like a warm sauce, the ribs, so I don't add anything after. I usually just go with like that sticky sauce that goes on when we put it on the grill. I know some people will do a second coat just to, but even if I did that, I would like throw them in the oven under the broiler just to get some more
Oh, yeah.
caramelization on there.
Yeah, do you I put like brown sugar over it too. That gives it a nice flavor as well. What is your of the sauces that you make, what's your favorite favorite Big Deck sauce to put on ribs?
Um, Maybe the peanut butter barbecue sauce. Like it just adds a it just all pairs well together with, that sweet and salty, and then you can, with if you use our Badlands rub, it has a little smoky and a little bit of spice with some cayenne pepper. It's just like the perfect balance of everything. That's the one where people really like give me like the side eye, like, are you sure? Peanut butter barbecue sauce. I'm like, you just got to try it, and then people leave with 6 bottles of it. Like I don't know why it works. It makes me just as angry as everybody else that it does work, but I think it's one of our better sauces.
I agree, because when I made the ribs for the Super Bowl, I was asking you which sauce and which seasoning, and I did the Badlands and the peanut butter and jelly sauce,
Yeah,
and they were phenomenal. I had rave reviews about how good they were. They were asking what sauce it was, what I used, and I was like, it's Big Deck barbecue, peanut butter and jelly. They're really good. They're also really good on like to dip in like I don't really want to call boneless or chicken, popcorn chicken, essentially.
sure.
I mean, we're just getting all sorts of the controversial takes on here.
Yeah.
Is our
The-
boneless wings? No, they're chicken nuggets, but I
you
still eat them.
call them whatever you want. I'll eat 40 of them. It doesn't.
Exactly. And
Let me put you on next time you do chicken wings, if you do any on your Pit Boss. This is our method, and you can kind of play with this, but I do a smoke and fry method. So I'll smoke until the chicken wing is done, 160, 165 degrees, and I'll pull them off and fry them right away. So the skin gets crispy and
oh,
have a smoky flavor. And I'm in the process currently of becoming more of a slender gentleman than I was previously. Down 45 pounds this year, no big deal. I will go,
hey, boy, congrats.
appreciate it. I'll go right from the smoker into the air fryer, and that works just as good.
Yes, that's because I don't have a deep fryer, but I the air fryer is just as good. So when you take them off, do you put them like baking powder on them, or do you just take them straight from the smoker and into the deep fryer or air fryer?
I go straight into it. I know some people do like I believe it's like a Korean fried chicken. We'll go into a cornstarch or something like that, just to add a little bit of texture on the outside of it. Honestly, I just fry them as hot as I possibly can, and that gets my skin crispy.
Okay, gotcha.
I
So
do, sometimes my fiance will get a craving for fried chicken, and then you get into the plate of the flour, the dry, wet, dry, all that good stuff. But with the chicken wings, it's right from the fryer. It's also because I've had 12 Miller Lights and want to eat chicken wings, so I just try to expedite the process.
yeah, yeah, that's also some good logic. Uh, but my uncle over Memorial Day weekend, we went up to his cabin at Lake Chita, and he has a chicken broaster, and we
Ooh,
broasted chicken, and it was incredible. And my sister, who is she's not not much for fried food,
mhm,
she was eating it too, and it was incredible. It was quite a process of that, and then I mean he probably made like 5 or 6 chickens,
sure.
but it was so good.
Yeah, but I mean, people ask like what my favorite meat to barbecue with is, and beef is obviously great. Pork is pretty versatile, but pound for pound, if I can do as many dishes as I want with something, I think chicken might be the barbecue champion. That's a hot take.
Well, that and it's not something that takes forever either. I mean, you can put it on for like I can't remember how I did. When I made smoked those chicken thighs, I want to say I put it at like 200 for like an hour, and
Yeah.
they were perfect.
Hmm.
And especially if it's in a pinch, or if you don't want to spend 14 to 16 hours supervising a piece of meat,
Yeah.
chicken's the way to go.
Yeah. Sneaky the number one meal I can remember from my dad making is he'd come home Friday night after a long week of work and we'd do beer can chicken. And we would just like be waiting, like with bated breath for the chicken to be done. And then it would just all be gone in like 5 minutes from everybody picking it clean.
Yeah. Well, that's your dad's job, is to make sure nobody goes hungry.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so with your barbecue sauce, there's certain areas, the Carolina, Kansas City, Texas, is there a certain style of barbecue that your guys' sauce is based off of, or do you guys have one that's kind of for Texas, Carolina, Kansas City? I'm sure I'm missing a few other ones, but those are kind of the big ones that are known.
Yeah, the real like 4 or 5. The hard part is Texas has like its regionality within Texas of what you use and how it goes. But Kansas City, Memphis is the other big one that people talk about,
Oh, Memphis, yep.
and then obviously you get into the Georgia and the Carolinas. The Dakota mustard is an exact recipe of a Carolina barbecue sauce. I love that because Carolinians think that like if it's beef, it's not barbecue. Like they're all pork. That's what they're all about when they're talking about barbecue, which I appreciate. I love a good pulled pork sandwich or some pork belly. Those are always great. Um, it's almost it's I don't know. It's hard to describe. It wasn't really based off of anything regionalized. Kansas City uses a lot of ketchup. It's thick, molassesy, and sweet. It's almost like a hybrid between that and like when you get closer to Texas, where it's more of the smoky, savory flavors that you're looking for in a barbecue sauce.
Okay, yeah. I'm going down to Nashville here in a couple of weeks for vacation. Excited to try that area. I've been to Kansas City.
Mhm.
That's some of the best barbecue. My boss is a huge Chiefs fan as well, so he actually went to the Chiefs Bengals
Oh,
game,
sure.
AFC Championship game, and he brought me back a couple of different types of barbecue sauce from there. And there's one, I think it's called like Gates barbecue sauce.
Yep.
And if you ever go look it up, I want to say it's one of the more, like, when you walk in, they're yelling at you, "What can I get you? What do you need?"
Oh, yeah.
And that one I remember is very vinegar based.
Yeah. Yeah. That's Gates is like one of the spots that they talk about that you have to hit when you go to Kansas City. It's that Q39, which is like Andy Reid's favorite restaurant.
Yep,
And then
that's I have a sauce of that as well.
and then it's Joe's KC, which is I'm telling you, man, like I think about that every day. Like that was some of the best food I've ever had, period, outside of just barbecue. We went, me and Ross Uglum went and visited our buddy who lives in Kansas City because the Bison were playing in Vermilion. So we just drove through, went to Kansas City because it's only another 3 or 4 hours, excuse me, past Vermilion, and then just drove back up on I-29. And we hit Q39 on Thursday night or whatever that was. Phenomenal, and it's a different kind of vibe than like you're talking about where you walk in, you're getting screamed at, you get a deli ticket, and you leave. That's like more upscale. But what I loved about Q39 is everything they still treat it like a barbecue joint where everything's already made. It's not like made to order. So we had our food in like 4 minutes. All they have to do is plate it, and then we hit Joe's, and I'm not kidding. I think I spent $60 on myself at Joe's, and that's not like buying. It's not like their food's expensive. I bought a lot of food, and
What'd you get?
so I had the what's the famous sandwich called? It's it's brisket with onion rings, provolone cheese, and barbecue sauce, and it's like what they're famous for. It was incredible. I did the platter with sausage, pulled pork, and brisket. Um, had a couple sides. They had I'm like literally a grocery bag full of French fries they gave me, and then I had baked beans and mac and cheese, and then I got a banana pudding for the way out. It was
Ooh.
like almost had to crawl in the back seat and just lay all the way stretched out, just like take me to Vermilion.
On food coma.
Yeah, yeah, that was. I mean, North Dakota and Fargo as well as not necessarily like a barbecue haven. So whenever I get to those places, I take full advantage.
Yeah, you have to. I know we went down a couple of years ago. We went to a coaching clinic down in Kansas City. We ate at Jack Stack Barbecue, and
Yeah,
that one's a little bit more upscale, a little fancier, but still incredible food. And it was I now and it's cool that they sell their all-purpose seasoning is some of the is like probably one of my favorite seasonings for steak.
hmm
You do that, salt and pepper, and then you use I don't know if you have you heard of bacon up bacon grease, where you
yep,
could it's just bacon grease in a tub. You
yeah,
use that as a binder, and then you put the salt and pepper, and then the Jack Stack. Incredible steak.
I love it. I might have to try that now that I have these
Yeah,
ribeyes going up next week. So yeah, I mean Q39. I love Joe's, but like if it has the Andy Reid seal of approval when it comes to food, I don't know
yeah.
how I can say otherwise.
That's like the perfect town for Andy Reid because I feel like there's a lot of those barbecue places that have the Andy Reid stamp of approval.
He was in two like all-time food cities for his two
Yeah.
coaching stints, like Philly, like obviously with the cheesesteaks, but like they have some great food as well. And he just goes right to Kansas City, where I would imagine he's eating barbecue every chance he gets.
Oh yeah. 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 I mean, I'd have a hard time staying skinny in that city.
Yeah, yeah. I have a hard time staying skinny in this city, so I can't imagine he'd be great in Kansas
Y-
City or Memphis or
Yeah,
something like
and I have a hard time staying skinny in Dickinson, and there's nowhere near the food options that that Fargo has. But you mentioned that your guys' Dakota mustard is based off of a Carolina barbecue sauce. So how I do in Carolina, do they refer to barbecue sauce as mustard, or how does that?
that.
What's
So
the correlation there?
my understanding is that like they know what barbecue sauce obviously is, like the ketchup based figure like ROG or when they serve barbecue, it is a mustard based sauce. That's my understanding of their nomenclature. And then it's so funny how like you move 250 miles west into Georgia, and you get back to where it's apple cider vinegar based, like our mop sauce, and that's what that is based on. We had a family friend come into town, and before we were selling it, and he tried my what turned out to be my dad's OG recipe. He's like, man, what the hell is this? This isn't barbecue. He's like, okay, well, tell me what barbecue is to you then. And he was a Georgian, and he kind of laid the whole groundwork of how everything goes. And my dad tried it, and he's like, that's pretty damn good. I guess this is barbecue too. Um, I'm a fan of the vinegar based stuff. I do like a little body to it. I think ours is kind of in my sweet spot of what I like as far as ketchup, and I don't add molasses. I don't add like these super sweet thickening agents that you look for or that you see like Sweet Baby Ray's stuff like that. It's just a different consistency, different flavor, and I don't know. I think a lot of people agree that it's like an open the door to a different kind of barbecue to people.
Yeah, if you had to pick only one city of which, in your opinion, which city has the best barbecue of all the places that you've tried, or which I guess region has the best barbecue? Whether Memphis, Kansas City, Georgia, Carolinas, Texas, East Texas, West Texas, North Texas, South Texas.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure which ones there is. I know Houston is a big barbecue town. The one time I was there,
Yep.
uh, what which region would you say is your favorite?
I think as far as just enjoying good barbecue, and it pains me to say this because they're the most pretentious group of people on the face of the earth, but Texas barbecue, I think pound for pound can go with anybody, and that's like there's obviously the regionality where you get like closer to the Mexican border, for instance, they start using different spices than if you're up in Dallas or Houston or Austin. Um, Texas is all about just salt and pepper, man, and then they use post oak. That's the wood that is like widely accepted as the best wood to smoke with in Texas. The problem is, I don't think they're big on pork. It's a lot of beef that gets smoked. You get into beef ribs and brisket and chuck roast, all this stuff. But man, I really don't know if it can be beat when you get good brisket out in Texas.
Yeah. Yeah, it's been a while since I've been. Hopefully one of these years I'll make it down to Frisco to watch NDSU avenge their loss from last year.
Yeah,
But
no,
but it was
to make you happy after a loss to the Jackrabbits, it's barbecue. So at least you're in the right.
yeah, well, I've already started the shit talking to SDSU. I don't know if you saw Midco, they had a thing out about how they have an intriguing non-conference start to their season. And I went and I looked up. They have one intriguing game against Montana State. The other two games is Drake and the mighty Southern Oregon Raiders out of the NAIA conference.
Oh my God! NAIA school?
Yeah,
Oh.
yeah. I had to look that up because that's their first game of the year is Southern Oregon, which is a team DSU was playing in the Frontier Conference not too long ago.
It's absolutely insane, but not to be not shocked by that. So that's SDSU behavior. We can't talk too much, I guess. Who's our non-con? I know we start with Eastern Washington, who was arguably the worst college football team in Division I last year, but after that, I don't think it's entirely too difficult. We're not playing an NAIA school, so point by
or a D2.
Yeah,
because I think it was a few years. Well, this was probably like 10 to 12 years ago. But I remember when UND played Sioux Falls and got the doors blown off them at the Alaris Center.
That's so funny.
I'm trying to look this up here. But yeah, what's crazy is we're, before you know it, we're about 6 weeks away from August and fall camp starting.
Well,
but
don't say that.
But
summer,
so
feel like.
Yeah. Well, in some of these non-conference games, like when they're scheduled, they aren't. They're when they're scheduled, these teams are somewhat decent. So like NDSU's, it's not the worst one I've seen, but they have Eastern Washington, Maine, and Central Arkansas.
I mean, as far as like, if you would have said that 5 years ago, they'd have been like, why is NDSU scheduling like powerhouses, but like games? So I mean, no, and Central Arkansas is a formidable opponent, and I feel like Maine is like a perpetual playoff game. So I don't know what happened to Eastern Washington, but they stink at football right now. So
part of it I think too is they have their school almost like closed down and they barely can afford to have a football team. I think it's probably similar to what's going on with Western Illinois and Southern Illinois, where they're struggling to get kids.
Yeah, that's too bad. And I don't know, because obviously NIL is that nuance for the conversation that people want to have, but there's still the same amount of pool for people to play with. And if there's one kid going up and getting NIL, there's obviously a kid coming down. So I don't know. It's certainly interesting, but it's too bad. I know I had some friends who like played at St. Cloud when they just like get a call that, hey, you can't play football here anymore. I can't even imagine what that'd be like.
Yeah, that's would not be fun. But the like with those like Western where it's crazy. I don't know if you read the Jeff Kolpak article that was back when it was announced that Western was leaving the Summit League and Missouri Valley, but that they used to be like the standard of the conference, and that's who NDSU wanted to be like when they joined the Missouri Valley.
Yeah, and then I don't know. It's crazy how much like obviously people don't want to have that conversation, but look at the success of NDSU as a university in general, as the team has become a powerhouse. And who knows what Western Illinois' fate could have been had they won 8 games a season for the past 10 years, you know?
Yeah, because and you've played there, but I remember when Chris Kleiman coached there, Matt Entz coached there as well. But I always remember them saying when the week of Western it was when it was, or if it was homecoming, how big of a deal that used to be.
Mm-hmm.
And it's in a sense it's sad to see like those schools or staples, because Western's been in the Missouri Valley since it's been founded.
Right. And even
And
it's sad even to like think about the struggles that a team like SIU is going through. As a team who's on the come up with a 35-year-old coach who's seems like a stud, you know, it's kind of seemed like but you know, if there's state funding and the athletics aren't bringing in a lot of revenue to the school, then you know you can only get so many favors done for you when it comes to that stuff, which is too bad.
yeah, and it's be interesting to see what happens with NDSU, because I know they've been on record of saying that they want to jump up to the FBS. They're just kind of waiting at on the invite here. Do you think there's a time frame of when they could when that jump will be happening?
In my heart of hearts, think that if it's not done within the next 5 years, then there's going to be some real problems. I think we need to capitalize on when the brand has never been at its highest value. But like I said, or like you mentioned, it's not a Michael Scott declare bankruptcy situation. You can't just be like, I play in the Mountain West. You have to be invited, and what is going to, I don't know. It certainly seems like there's been some steps taken, like the renovations going on in the Fargo Dome, stuff like that, where it's like, okay, are we proving to these conferences that we're serious about doing it? Because I also don't know how long we can be so choosy about what conference we're going to go into. You know what I mean? Like waiting for that perfect opportunity to come up. If Conference USA calls, I don't know. And if there's nobody else lining up ready to take us in, I don't know how you say no to that. Because I'd rather be Conference USA than FCS, to be honest with you.
I would too, and especially now that the playoff is expanding to 12 teams,
Yep.
where I think NDSU pound for pound can compete with the schools in Conference USA as far as recruiting. They're already going up against those schools recruiting wise.
Yep.
And they have the facility, probably some of those nicer facilities than what's in Conference USA. And James Madison said they never wanted to join the Sun Belt, and here they are. They walked in and they pretty, in theory, won it this year. Which, don't like saying nice things about James Madison, but I mean, to their credit, they walked in and they should have been playing in a bowl game.
Yeah, and even if you look at 12, with 12 teams getting in the playoff, NDSU replicates like JMU's season, goes undefeated and does it in fairly dominating fashion, you're looking at genuinely playing in the college football playoff. Because what I imagine how it will go is the top two teams from the Power Fives, unless there's some absolute stinker in the ACC or Big 12 or something like that. I'd imagine the top two from each of the Power Fives will get in, and then two spots left open for the G5. I mean, if NDSU is at 18, how do you even argue that they're the number one G5 team? You know what I mean? I don't think it's completely unrealistic for something like that to happen.
You're absolutely.
State go in and do it. They have success immediately. We saw JMU go in and do it. Coastal Carolina now is all these teams.
Georgia Southern.
Yeah, it just feels like we're falling behind the wayside, and what that problem gets conflated with, especially in Bison Twitter, is they blame the administration. Like I said, they can't just be like, "Hey, we're coming to play in the Mountain West now. Like, you have to take us." I think they're doing their due diligence and doing as much as they can, but I think we need to strike while the iron's hot here still.
Yeah, I agree, and to your point with they can't, because I think where NDSU fans get this idea is because that's what Texas and Oklahoma did to go to the SEC. They said they wanted to join the conference, but NDSU, as successful as they are, they don't have Texas or Oklahoma money.
Right.
And, they can't just go. They don't have that power. I mean, they could go to any conference in the FCS and say if they wanted to join, they would, but that they would be dumb because regionality, and then, they're already playing in the best conference in the FCS. What do you think of the NIL as far as, because it seems like NDSU, they were really good on cost of attendance. They were ahead of the race on there, and they were one of the first schools to do it, but they seem to be really falling behind with the NIL stuff. Where do you sit with all of that?
Yeah, I agree with you. Well, just in general, I feel like in its current form was just in retaliation to. I feel like Mark Emmert approved it and really pushed it through to make it a thing in retaliation to the schools and the players begging for it so bad, because there's no infrastructure or rules or anything about how it's the wild, wild west. It really is. And we're going to look in 10 years to be like, that's how they did NIL. But I think Mark Emmert was just like, fine, you want it? Here it is. Go do it. I'm always a player advocate. I like to look at it from a player's perspective. It's not easy and to go through college and obviously not have an opportunity to earn money for yourself. And obviously people talk about scholarships and things like this. We only have 2 months out of the year to work to have any money going throughout the year. So I'm all for guys being able to go get their market value. I think a lot of the NIL naysayers talk about, well, these teams can buy the best teams or buy the best players. And it's like, what do you think was happening already? It's now just legal in front of everybody. And especially as a business owner, I look at it from my side. I wouldn't give it to a player if I thought that I wouldn't get some return on investment. It's still a business expense at the end of the day. You're looking to, it's no different than hiring anybody else to market your product for you. So guys aren't, unless, it's like Mattress Mac going to SMU and being like handing out money for whoever wants to come there. But I'm a fan of NIL, and I think NDSU should have been rolling on this thing yesterday. We're too big of a school to not have the collective ready to go. And as far as my knowledge is that there's things in the process that at least beginning talks of getting something like that to make sure the guys are compensated, because, you look at some of these guys that are leaving to transfer. Would $10,000 or $15,000 a year convince them to stay and play at NDSU? I think so. The sad fact that I think we have to deal with, and a lot of people have a hard time wrapping their heads around, is some guys are looking at this like a business, just like the rest of the system has looked at players forever. They're not coming here. I'm not going to say that. That's hyperbolic. But some guys aren't coming here just to win. Right? They're looking to expand their personal brand. And I'm all for it, because once you leave, you're done playing football. What do you have in your hands to be successful after? And why not rack that up while your brand is at the highest value it possibly can be? But yeah, I don't know. It's I think it's something that needs to happen. We can all like kick our feet and moan and be sad about how people are taking advantage of it, but we have to understand that that's the system, and we also have to play that game too. I'm happy that it is a thing. I wish it was more well regulated, because I know of guys that were contacted by Power 5 coaches, FBS coaches, and said, hey, if you come here, you have a blank check. Well, that shouldn't be allowed. So, that part of it makes me a little wary, but I think for NDSU, especially to gear up to move into an FBS conference, needs to hop on that stuff as soon as possible.
Yeah, I agree. And I think there has to be some type of happy medium, because I think it's here. You're not going to change it. And luckily with the rest of the FCS, for the most part, most teams have very slow footing of getting these NIL collectives rolling. I think there needs to be a balance because, talking about going out buying a team, you go look at like Texas A&M last year, who went out and bought a bunch of players.
Yep.
3/4 of those guys transferred and are no longer with the team because for any number of reasons. I think you have to have that balance of, we want guys that want to come here and play NDSU because they want to be Bison and they want to do things the NDSU way.
Mm-hmm.
And if they take care of what they can on the field, those NIL deals are going to come because if you're a junior, senior, and you see a guy, a 18-year-old kid who hasn't put in any time to the program and he's getting $100,000, that's not going to sit well in the locker room. But if the kid gets it, but I think there has to be clear as far as, I think, and I don't know if you can regulate it on a national level, but I think schools need to develop their own guidelines for these collectives. So when they come into the program, they know what they're getting into. They're not shocked that they're getting promised this and that, and then they don't, and they end up transferring too.
Yeah, I think what I like about the NIL and its principle is it's allowing players to get their fair market value. You're going out and you're marketing yourself just like you would be a professional. Here's what we'll pay you because this is what we think your brand is worth to market our product. I like that. Obviously there are donors that you go into the South where they'll just hand a kid $500,000 because they want him to play for them. But when you get up into, smaller schools and even lower, I'd say even SEC schools where they don't have that kind of money to throw around, it's really kids just getting money that these businesses or donors think they're worth. I think what scares people with NIL is the fact that you have a championship pedigree, a team that you're putting out every fall, like NDSU, a perpetual winner where, look at myself. I didn't play a lot in college, but I still have capitalized on my time at NDSU, and it's led me into basically springboarding my business to where it is now because I played there. My point is, what I think scares people is that that's not enough to keep kids on campus anymore. You're basically recruiting kids now from high school to the day they step foot off the campus after they graduate and play their last game. And all that stuff in the middle is finding out who can play that game the best.
Yeah, well, look at Grant Nelson.
Mm-hmm.
Dave Richmond was probably recruiting him every day to stay at NDSU, and unfortunately he's not there. You wish him well at I don't. It hasn't been official, but sounds like he's going to be playing for Alabama this year.
Yep.
Or I guess you could say, if we're going Alabama terms, taking a shot at playing at Alabama.
Yeah, right. Yeah, and I think what people get lost in, and I didn't even understand until I met with people who knew what's going on with NIL stuff as far as starting a collective. Like you start as a nonprofit. That's how these NIL collectives are, for the most part, founded. Like I know the one at K-State and the one at Ohio State are filed as 501c3, so they're not taking in any profit. That means you need to have a staff to make sure every dollar that's given to your organization is going to where it needs to be allocated. There's a lot of background and infrastructure stuff that needs to happen for this thing to work. But that being said, I just feel like those resources need to be put to use that we have because Montana State has a collective. I believe Southern Illinois has a collective. It's like, what are we doing? We just raised $50 million to build an indoor practice facility. You tell me we couldn't get another 10 to pay the guys for 2 years?
And Fargo's continuously growing. There's a lot of money in that town. Mm-hmm. So I think part of it is I think I think there's part of me that says somebody just needs to just say, hey, I'm starting this collective, donate your money here, and we're going to try to get something rolling. Because it seems like, and from a distance, it seems like neither the school or anybody within the by as far as team makers, alumni association, any of them really want to be the first one to get things rolling as far as starting the collective, because all it takes is one person, and then the money's going to start rolling in.
Yeah, and I know I, I'm not as plugged into the administrative stuff as I am still into the locker room, obviously at NDSU, but there's been rumblings that people are having the conversation at least, which makes me hopeful that something gets organized here soon. But yeah, I just lost my train of thought. But just doing it sustainably too, um, because you don't want to have some guy and come in and just like try to rack up all this money and then nothing gets fulfilled. You're making false promises like you're talking about to guys and they're not getting their checks because then people leave in mass exodus. What I think is harder about going to NDSU donors than other places. It's obviously like an older demographic, I believe, with NDSU um, alums, and a lot of them have views about the good old days and like you played because you loved the game and stuff like that. And look, those guys built the program to what it is, and they're all part of the NDSU culture. But I think it's hard for a lot of those people to understand the concept of, okay, I just gave $10,000 to team makers for all NDSU athletics. Now you're asking me to give you another $10,000 to make sure these football players, these basketball players stay on campus. Like, I feel like that might be the harder sell. But what they have to understand is that is absolutely what I'm asking you to do because that is the only way we're going to keep our good players in.
Yeah, well, it's the old saying of adapt or die.
Yep.
And it's unfortunate that they have it's come to it, but it's also, it just shows the lack of leadership within the NCAA, the administration, and I mean they're all bought and paid for crooks, if you ask me. For the most part, there's a few good ones, but a lot of those people in higher up positions, they're not the one, they're taking orders from somebody else.
Yeah.
And I think
go
go ahead.
I was just gonna say you can be upset about the system and mad about how it works all you want, but it's the system and everybody's playing the game. It's are you gonna go with it or just like I said, kick your feet and be mad about it and continue to lose guys? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Inviting NDSU on that. I think they're doing as good of a job as they can, but these other schools that are going to you're not going to grit your teeth and bury your head in the sand your way through NIL. You have to be able to do it.
Yeah, and I think Matt Entz has done a really good job about that he seems very upfront about how the NIL, and I think he's probably one that's pushing hard for something to get taken care of. But
yeah,
he's got a job to do. His focus is what's that?
Of course he is. He wants his good players to be here.
Yeah, and he's going to focus on the guys that are there. He's going to focus on the things he can control. And I believe he has the attitude of we're going to win if you're here or not. Mm-hmm. And we want you to be a part of it. And if not, good luck to you, but we're not going to sometime. And he said that he takes those things personal because that's also part of it too, is when you invest as much time as you do as a coach into the kids and to try to get them to become the best version of themselves, the best player of themselves, and then they leave and they transfer to somewhere else. That, I mean, I as a coach, I would understand why that would be frustrating to deal with.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think especially like in that scenario that's obviously happened, I think that has to be communicated between players and coach, because what annoys me is seeing people on Facebook and on Twitter trying to guess why kids are leaving. And it's like, well, you can get drafted here. You can win championships here. You don't understand that economic situation back home. If they're trying to send money back home and take care of people, if there wasn't social media, nobody would have understand why Josh Hayes left and went to Virginia to begin with. He wanted to be closer to his daughter. He just there's a lot of nuance in these conversations that I think doesn't see public, shouldn't see the public. That's between coach and player if the player wants to disclose that. But Even Jalen Bussey. You look at a guy that like obviously was a contributor and would have been a good player this year. Could have came back. He wanted to go play at home. He wants to be around his friends and family. I don't think there's anything wrong with that either. But like you said, you win this kid over to come up from wherever they're coming from high school. You send them to Kramer and you let him mold this ball of play and you put him around some of the best position and offensive and defensive coordinators in the country. And then how do you reconcile that kid wanting to go play at what some perceive as a lesser school than NDSU?
Yeah. But I think NDSU is going to be just fine. I'm excited for the season to start. And we can wrap this up here. So got one more question now. Now that it's summer, it is Father's Day weekend. Are you got any Father's Day plans?
Actually, one of my best friends, Garrett Malmstrom, is getting married. Of
Okay.
fullback fame, meat stick, make fullbacks great again. He's getting married on Saturday to his lovely fiance, Madison. So we're going to be celebrating Saturday. And as I imagine you and the listeners can put together, when you put 100 football guys that haven't seen each other in a few years together in a room, there's going to be some debauchery. So I'm not sure if I'm willing to do anything on Saturday or Sunday morning. Excuse me.
I got you. Yeah, that sounds. I have my 10-year high school reunion here in next 2 weeks, and I'm not sure how it's gonna go because for the most part it seems like it's gonna be most of us like guys I hang out with because got a few that have moved away, but when they come back, things there's debauchery that happens, and I feel like that could be one of those that could definitely be one of those weekends. And then my last question is I know you're a busy guy, and so I appreciate you taking the time to come visit.
Yeah, of course.
And chat with me. It's been a while, and the rules here for the podcast are very similar to like Pardon My Take. Now that you're a recurring guest, anytime I ask you to come on, you have to.
That's fair. My only request is I need to get on with the whole crew. Well, we need to either maybe when I'm swinging through Dickinson, if I drop some stuff off, we can do a live one on site. But I want to coordinate one so I get on with all the boys.
Yes. So and that's a good idea because we can do that as the as NDSU season approaches, and we can do a full NDSU preview with you.
Sure.
Because the issue is so I'm actually the only one that lives in Dickinson. The other two guys, they live out in the cities.
Okay.
So we all do it remote. And this won't be the three guys talking ball. This will be the YouTube special show, Conversation Monday, which will be released Monday I don't have the date on my watch, but the 18th, 19th? 19th? Yeah. So this will be released on the 19th.
Great.
And yes, so that it's booked, it's done. You are our NDSU preview guest this year, so you would, and I believe that would put you tied for as a guest on the show of the fourth time you've been on. So you would be up with Nate Rohr, who is the public address announcer for Memorial Stadium for the Huskers.
Okay, that's pretty cool. That's esteemed to be with. Those guys are down in like Minneapolis area.
Yep, they're so Ethan is moving to next week. He's moving to, I think it's Shakopee. His apartments are right next to Canterbury Park.
Okay.
And then Grant lives in Plymouth.
Okay. So well, I mean, we play a game at US Bank. We'll do.
I would love to, Zach. The issue is that we have I have a wedding the week before, and we have a game that Friday. So hopefully one of the weekends we can all meet in Fargo and do one in person.
Love it.
And make something work.
I'll just go drink with those guys in September and give you the biggest case of FOMO.
There you go. I don't even know if they're going to be going to the game, to be honest. I know because Grant usually ends up having to work Saturdays, and
Sure.
occasionally Ethan does too. So that might be their weekends they have to work. But
Well, he's like,
of the three guys, I'm about the only one that really follows NDSU religiously.
Sure.
Ethan, huge Gopher fan. Grant, Iowa fan.
okay.
So, those are kind of their main focuses, and then we talk, the national whatever's going on. But
What's a Big Ten
so
boy?
yeah, we are. Yep, and so now that we've gotten the North Dakota goodbye already, and so when you're not making barbecue sauce, you're not smoking meat. What are you doing in your free time? What's your favorite summer activity?
So actually, right now, it used to be something I made fun of because I thought it was for washed up old guys, but now I am a washed up old guy. I'm in a Tuesday night softball league. That's really fun. A bunch of buddies from high school asked me to be on the team this year, and that's been fun. Get the competitive juices flying a little bit, and then as much as I can, I like to get on the links, hit the course as much as possible. Absolutely no good at golf, but it is fun to get out there and at least drink beers out in nature.
Yes, that's myself as well. We play every Tuesday night. And then yeah, well, and I usually have golf league Thursday night, but it was raining, and I just said, you know what, I'm gonna interview Zach because that sounds a lot drier, and I'm not out in the cold, and I'm playing bully tomorrow for a golf scramble for work, so I get paid to golf tomorrow, which doesn't happen too often, but I'm gonna take advantage of it. So yeah, those are my two hobbies. So another thing, when you're swinging through Dickinson, we can go play around.
Hey, I'm all for that. Anytime I can, I don't get paid. I am the boss, so I determine when I pay myself. But if I can get out, we were out in Bismarck for a sampling last year, and I went and got on. Is that three? They're
Yep,
they're a gorgeous course.
of course.
Man. Yeah.
Yes.
Anywhere I can get out and golf because I'm selling barbecue sauce, I'm always down to do that. So
Yeah, that's like a double whammy. You're making money and you're golfing. I have yet to figure that out for the most part. Because I'm not good enough to be a pro. If I was, I'd be out in LA. But where can people find your stuff at, as far as if they want to buy, or where can they find your social medias at? I'll go ahead and plug those.
yeah, appreciate it. We're Big Deck BBQ on everything. Try to keep everything. It's always hard when you see people plug stuff at the end of podcasts, and it's like three different handles across the three social medias. So we're Big Deck BBQ across everything. If you're in North Dakota, for the most part, if you have, a supermarket, it all depends on. I know you get out west and it's like Dan's or Marketplace out in Minot.
Yep.
For the most part, you can find us, which is pretty cool, and that's always nice to tell people, like, hey, wherever you're grocery shopping, you can find our stuff. So that's something we like to hang our hat on. You can always order online. We ship direct anywhere in the lower 48. Otherwise, if you don't want to buy barbecue sauce, I understand that, but a retweet and a like is always free. So we appreciate those as well.
Yeah, absolutely, and appreciate you coming on, and I'm excited to do it again.
Yeah, thanks as always, man. It was good to talk to you.
Yes, it was good catching up.